be a part of the background. There's always at least a little white noise in the background. So rather than reacting to it, perhaps being irritated by it, when you notice sounds around you this morning, just acknowledge them as part of life going on around you as you take the time that you need to practice yoga. Allow the sounds to wash over you, just letting them go. Starting to notice the naturally flowing breath now. Not feeling the need to change the breath just yet, but observing the gentle inhale and exhale that happens without any conscious direction from you. Notice the gentle rise and fall, perhaps only in the chest, a very shallow breath. And perhaps begin now to deepen the breath, slowing it down. Inhaling long, slow and deep. Exhaling slowly and completely, all the breath released. All without tension. Smoothing the breath out. And seeing if you can find an evenness to the breath, the inhale and exhale, matching them in length. Perhaps noticing the belly space moving more with this deep breath, rising as you breathe in and falling away as you let the breath out. So along with the idea of stretching it out, see if you can perhaps count your next inhale and extend your exhale by another count of 1 or 2. So if your inhale is 5, your exhale might be for a count of 6 or 7. It might take a couple of rounds to find smoothness once more with this stretched out, lengthened, prolonged exhalation. So just give it a little time to settle in. Finding this new pattern to the breath. Slow and deep inhale. Slower, slightly longer exhale. And just take another couple of these slow, deep breaths with a longer exhale. And then allow the breath to return to a completely unrestricted flow once more. Just let it come back to move without your direction. Natural flowing breath. And take a moment here to observe once more body, space of your mind, and the naturally flowing breath. If there's something that you'd like to set as your intention this morning for practice, you can bring the hands together at heart center and repeat any chosen intention silently 3 times. It might be a single word. It might be a short positive statement phrased as if it's already the truth. And starting to invite some movement into the body gently. You can start to open your eyes when you feel ready. You might just take a little stretch through the arms, maybe move wrists and ankles, stretching out the legs, perhaps taking the arms up, anything that feels good for you, just to invite a little movement in, having been still in your seat. And I'm going to invite you now to come down onto your back. So just move any props that you have underneath you that you won't need now. And coming down onto your back, bend your knees and bring them into the chest. For a squeeze, you might want to take a gentle rock from side to side. Just giving the back a little gentle massage. And then come to stillness and squeeze yourself as tightly as you can. Make yourself into a ball. You can lift your head up if you like, if your neck's okay, or you can leave your head resting on the mat. Tight as you can in your ball. And then start to relax and take yourself as long as you can on the mat. So arms long overhead and legs stretched out as long as you can. You might point the toes, reach out through the fingertips, and then staying long, just relax the body. Make sure the feet are together. You can clasp your hands overhead on the mat if you like, and start to shuffle or walk your heels across to the right, creating a bend in the lower part of the body, coming into Vinyasa, a nice stretch out. And if it's okay for you, you can start to take the top part of the body over to the right as well. So shuffling the shoulders along, stretching the arms perhaps to the right. And by now you might be feeling a fairly decent stretch across the front of your left hip. If you'd like a little bit more, you can cross left ankle over right. See how that feels for you. It'll deepen that sensation of stretch. And let's just take a quiet 3 slow breaths here. If you have the ankles crossed, just let them uncross. You can start to walk your upper body back to center on the mat and your lower body as well. Bring the legs back to center. Bring the knees to the chest and let's squeeze in nice and tight again. So squeeze in, perhaps the head lifts as tight as you can squeeze. And then start to let your body relax again, coming long onto the mat. And make yourself as long as you can. So stretch the arms out overhead, perhaps point the toes long as you can. Feel that contrast coming long after being squeezed in tight. And start to let yourself relax. Still long on the mat, but just let things soften. Vinyasa to the other side now. So start to shuffle, slide, glide the heels to the left till you feel a good sense of stretch there for you. It might be not too deep. And then if you like, you can take the upper body over to the left as well. And if you choose to add a little more stretch here, you can cross your right ankle over your left, perhaps feeling an intensified sensation of stretch across the front of the right hip. 3 slow, deep, quiet breaths here. And then uncrossing your ankle, if you have it crossed. Starting to walk the upper body back to center. And the legs back, centrally aligned on the mat. One more squeeze in, perhaps a little bit more rock from side to side here. A little massage through the back. DIY massage, always a good thing. And then take your feet to the mat, but keep your knees bent. And take your feet wider, maybe to the width of the mat. Arms can come out to a T at shoulder height if you have the space, or they can come to cactus arms. So T if you have space, or cactus arms if you don't. A little gentle windscreen wiper twist, breathing in to prepare. As you exhale, rock on the right edge of the feet. Knees come towards the right. Your left hip will lift away from the mat with the breath in, coming up. Exhaling, other side. Rock on the left edge of the feet. Knees fall towards the left, right hip lifts away from the mat. And just continue moving with your breath. Using the inhale to rise and the exhale to stay down in the twist. If you want to stay down for an extra breath or two on either side or both sides, do that. And then maybe the other side. So just a nice easy warm up through the hips and the lower back, perhaps coming back to center again, that starting point. Bringing the knees into the chest once more, squeeze or hug, and making our way up. You can either come very gently rolling through one side to come up. If you're feeling a little more energetic, you might tuck chin to chest and start to rock and roll yourself up. And bring yourself forward to tabletop. If you have a block or something that you're using as a block substitute, just bring it towards the front of your space now. We want that soon. And if you don't have one, that's okay as well. Bring yourself into tabletop position. And you can choose whether or not you like to take your right leg out to the side. So taking right leg out to the side, you can be in a tabletop, and I can just see on my screen that we're not mirroring perhaps. So I'm going to take my other right leg out to the side and you can match it. All right, so some cow cat, whether you've got the leg out to the side. If you do have the leg out to the side, line your arch of your foot up with your knee and turn your toes to face forward on the mat so that the foot is grounded. So either way, 3 cow cats now, and lower belly, lift tail, eyes and head through your cow. Press away through your cat, creating a nice arch through the spine. 2 more rounds with your own breath. 3 cow cats. All up. Coming back to that starting point in your tabletop. If you didn't already have the leg out, just take your leg out now, and you might want to just grab your block if you're going to use it. We're going to come into gate pose. So starting to walk the hands around to the left, and we want to ground the left hand in line with the knee, either on the mat or use your block to lift up the floor or the ground. And as you feel ready, you can start to sweep that right arm forward and up and press your left hip forward into your gate pose. Reaching up through the right arm, fingers and hand like a sunbeam. And you might want to try coming up onto the fingertips of the grounded hand, just to let the body do a little bit more work. And maybe looking up to the top hand here, or out or down. Just another couple of breaths here. Then sweeping that top arm back overhead and around, along in front of you. Bring the left hand with you. Take the right hand to your leg and reach up and over with the left arm, coming into a side stretch for the left side body. Just another couple of breaths here. So notice the sensation of stretch. Where are you feeling it? With your next exhale, top hand And arms start to sweep down and through. Bring the right with you back to your gate pose. Reaching up and over. Top shoulder relaxes away from the ear. Sometimes when we come up, we might want to hug it in, but we want to just relax it and reach through the arm and the fingers. With your exhale, sweep the top arm down and around, bringing the hands forward and then bringing your right foot forward behind your right hand, coming into Anjaneyasana crescent pose. You could come high if you choose, but I think I'm going to keep it low this morning for me, and you might want to as well, just not complicating things or making them too strong to start with. Let's breathe in and lengthen through the fingertips. And as you exhale, start to hinge forward through the hips, sweeping through into an arrowhead. So the palms turn back and the arms reach back too. Inhale, start to hinge out of the hips as you bring the arms back forward and up. 2 more with the breath. Exhaling. Hinging forward, reaching back. Inhaling up. And once more. Palms touch. Exhale, hands through the heart center all the way to the mat. Hands ground. Bring yourself back to tabletop. And this time you might take your left leg out to the side and perhaps bring your block around to the other side. Line up the arch of the left foot with the right knee. And 3 cow cats now. Coming through cow, lower belly, lift tail, eyes, head. And then moving through cat, finding that nice deep stretch. And 2 more rounds with your own breath. And coming back to that starting position. If you didn't already have the left leg out, you can take the leg out now, line it up with your knee, and then start to walk your hands around to the right, perhaps bringing your block with you and lining up right hand with the knee. Then stretching up into your gate pose, reaching up long and light, perhaps coming up onto the fingertips of the right hand. Right hip presses forward, left shoulder relaxes. Another breath or 2 here in gate pose. And then you can start to sweep that left arm overhead, down and across in front. Bring the right arm with you. Find your leg with the left hand and reach up and over, creating a side stretch in the right side body this time. Just a couple of breaths here. And with your exhale, you can start to sweep that top arm forward and down. Bring the other hand with you. Right hand grounds and open back up into your gate pose. And sweep left arm over and down. Hands finding ground and bringing your left foot behind your left wrist this time. Anjaneyasana, I'm going to go low. Choose if you'd like to stay low or go high. And arrowhead flow, breathing in, lengthen through the fingertips. Exhale, hinging forward, sweeping the arms through and back, palms turn. Inhaling, rise. 2 more with your breath. And coming to rise after the last one. Palms touch, hands come through heart center, all the way to the mat. And find yourself in plank pose, your variation. So it can be low or high plank, whichever feels right for you at this moment. Let's take a couple of breaths here in our plank pose. Grounded. Is there a sensation of stretch in this pose other than just needing to feel strong and challenged with your plank pose? Maybe there's some subtle sensations of stretch. Taking yourself back downward facing dog, adjusting feet hip width apart and pressing the torso back. Perhaps walking the dog, if that serves you well, to lengthen out through the backs of the legs, keeping the integrity in the front body, and perhaps coming to your still dog, and it might be with knees quite bent to keep the spine long, or you might have your legs a bit straighter. Coming forward now back to your plank pose, high or low. Moving through a little modified vinyasa sequence. So take a breath in when you're ready and exhale through your crocodile. Might be with knees already down. Pressing the earth away with everything you've got. Bend at the elbows. Everyone knees down. Big toes together and press back through child's pose. Just a nice, easy way to move through a vinyasa. Then come up through your downward facing dog. You might want to walk the dog a little bit more. If that's what you need, you might be happy to be still here for, let's say, 3 breaths. Remember, you can take a pause anytime you need, coming to child's pose or another pose that works in with the flow. Breathing right leg to the sky now, 3-legged dog. Step your foot through behind your right wrist. Coming on up for warrior one. So ground the back foot before you rise and come on up into warrior one. I like to take my back foot a little wider when I am in my warrior one. I'm just going to adjust that camera. Back foot a little wider. And come into that deep bend in the front knee. A little lift through the pubic bone, and you might look up to the sky. Slow and deep breath. With your next exhale, float the arms around behind, finding fingers clasped for humble warrior. Take a breath in, grow a bit taller out of the crown, root down through the feet. Exhale, hinging forward at the hips, bringing the torso inside the front leg or aiming in that direction. If you choose, you can take the arms away, creating a bit of extra stretch through the arms, fingers, the shoulders. As you next exhale, float the hands back to the sacrum if you've got them away, and ground your right hand, and with your inhale start to sweep your left arm forward as you rise, coming into proud warrior. So reaching up and over, creating a stretch in the body. Bring that back arm back up into your warrior one. And with your next inhale, straighten through the front leg for pyramid pose. So bring the arms around behind the back, and you might take a clasp of opposite elbows. If that's not possible or comfortable for you, you could just take hands clasped, or you could even have hands on hips. So front leg is straight this time, a little softness in the knee. Breathing in. Exhale, start to hinge forward from the hips. Spine stays long, just until the back of that front leg starts to tell you it's enough, or until you feel the spine starting to round. And if you've got the arms across the middle of the back, that's really good for helping you know when you're starting to round through the spine. If you have a little bit more range here, you may release the hands to the floor and fingertips ground, and find a little more depth in your Parsvottanasana pyramid pose. Conscious of where you feel the stretch in this pose and what is the right way to proceed. Is it to stay where you are, to go a little deeper, or to ease out? Take a breath in, and if you don't already, start to bring the hands down. So bend the front knee so that you can bring the hands down if they're not already to the floor. And let's shuffle our front foot forward a bit. Bring the hands inside the front foot and bring the back knee down. Lizard pose. So you can shuffle your front foot out a little wider, maybe to mat width or more. Realign the hands centrally on the mat, and then start to stretch your back leg along the mat so that you find a stretch that feels right for you. You might have to untuck the toes for that. You might retuck the toes, just helps with a little more engagement. And once you feel the stretch that feels about right, you can be up on the fingertips. If the floor or the ground is far away for you, just use your block. Otherwise, you might decide to come forward onto the forearms, and you can use your block for that, or you might be able to come to ground. If you want a little bit more, wherever you are, whether you're forward or whether you have the fingertips to the mat, you can press into the toes and the ball of the back foot to lift that left knee away from the floor. Lizard pose. Where do you feel the stretch? When you're ready to start to ease out, if you've got the back knee lifted, lower it down and take your right hand outside your front foot and shuffle your foot in just a little bit. Ground the hands for downward dog, and you can press into the left toes and step yourself back to downward facing dog. You might want to walk it again after being in that lizard pose. You might be happy to be still We'll take 3 more breaths here. Then coming forward into your plank, high or low plank. And moving through that modified vinyasa again, if you choose to come with me. Otherwise, you can pause in child's or downward dog. Taking a breath in to prepare. Exhale, lowering down. Just feel the earth pressing it away. Bend at the elbows, knees come down now. Big toes together and press back through child's pose. Then come up through downward facing dog. So take the feet back out to hip width apart and come through your downward facing dog. Now taking left leg to the sky in your 3-legged dog and stepping the foot forward behind left wrist, grounding the back foot for warrior 1. So I like to take my back foot out wider and turn the toes forward. Turn the toes. A little lift through the pubic bone. All parts of the feet pressing into the mat other than the arches, which will lift away naturally. Maybe looking up or out or down. One more breath. And exhale, float the hands around behind, finding clasped hands, ready for humble warrior. Breathing in, grow tall. Exhale, start to hinge yourself forward. Aiming the torso inside the front leg and perhaps stretching away through the arms. Slow and deep breath. Letting the hands come to rest at the sacrum again if you've had them away. Grounding the left hand on the buttock and sweeping up, keeping the front leg bent into a proud warrior, reaching up and over. With your next breath in, bring that left arm forward and up back into warrior 1. And exhale, taking the hands behind, coming into that pyramid pose again. So either clasping opposite elbows with hands, straightening front leg as well, or taking your hands clasped behind your back or hands on hips. Breathing in, grow tall. Exhale, hinge forward. Pyramid pose or Parsvottanasana. Listening to what the hamstrings and the calf muscles of your left leg have to tell you. Noticing length in the spine and perhaps deciding to take things a little deeper. If you have the range, you can bring fingertips to floor. Just another breath. If you don't already have the fingertips to the floor, start to bend through the front knee so that you can bring the hands down. And we're all going to bend through the front knee anyway. Shuffle the front foot forward a little bit and bring your left hand inside. Bring the back of the knee down and the leg behind, straight out behind. And you can start to walk your left foot out more towards the edge of the mat. You can have your toes turned forward or out to the side. It depends what feels good for you. And then you want to find that stretch. So you want to glide or slide that right leg long until you feel where you want to be. Tuck the back toes and then choose whether you want to just stay with the heart lifted on the fingertips or using your block, whether you'd like to come forward onto the forearms, perhaps using your block, or whether you would, in combination with any of that, like to press into the right toes and the ball of the right foot to lift your knee away from the floor. I like to come up onto the fingertips so that my body does more of the work rather than the load going down through my hands and wrists. So you could have a play with that as well. Just another couple of breaths here. And then if you've got the back knee lifted, gently lower it down. Bring your foot back inside your hands and ground the hands. Press into the back foot so that you can step yourself back to downward facing dog. You might want to walk the dog. You might be happy being still. Coming into still dog for just a couple of breaths here. And then bringing the knees down. Let's find a child's pose if you haven't already. Maybe the arms stay forward, maybe they come back beside you. Perhaps you turn onto one cheek. If you are resting on one cheek, you might just want to turn onto the other, just to give the neck a stretch on both sides. Only if you are already resting on one cheek. If you have the head turned, you can turn it back to center. If you have the arms beside you, start to bring them forward so that you can start to come up through the knees. And bring yourself down onto your back. Perhaps bring the knees into the chest once more. So a little bit like child's pose, but supine. Maybe a gentle rock from side to side. And you might even decide to take the hands beside the body and just extend the legs towards the sky into an easy inversion. Just for a few breaths here, you might point and flex the toes. Perhaps eyes are closed. Just allowing gravity to help ease any fatigue or tension in the legs. toxins flushing from the body away from the ankles, aided by gravity. And this is a great one, this legs in the air or legs up the wall, if you have a wall anywhere that you can use, for particularly this time of year, if you've been out doing a lot of running around and the lower part of the body is feeling the effects of that. Just finding a few breaths even in legs in the air or legs up the wall can really help to ease those feelings of fatigue in the legs and the feet. Coming back down now and starting to find a comfortable Shavasana, corpse pose, for the last part of our practice, so Yoga Nidra. So it's important to be comfortable, to use any props that you would like to support you in your practice, whether that's something thin under the head and the neck, or a bolster or pillow under the knees widthways to support the lower back. Start to find your corpse pose shape, your Shavasana shape, and take some time to adjust your clothes, whatever's underneath you, your position, until you find that you can come to rest comfortably and perhaps remain still for probably 10-15 minutes. The idea is to try to remain still and also awake throughout this practice. However, if you do have an overwhelming urge to move to restore your personal comfort, then please do, and then relax again. If you find yourself drifting towards sleep or carried away on thoughts, just come back to the sound of my voice. I'm going to be guiding you through some little mindful activities. In moments of silence, you can just come to your own breath, the sound of your own breath. Follow a few rounds. Don't worry if you do sleep. You still reap the benefits. Just if you can, try to stay present. That has a little extra benefit in it. So close your eyes if you haven't already, and take a nice deep breath in through the nose, and let that breath slowly out through the mouth. As you do, feel any cares or worries float away with that exhalation. You might do that another 1 or 2 times if it's helpful for relaxing the body and the mind. So come to the present, be here now, and prepare to reap the rewards of Yoga Nidra. Start to allow yourself to scan far in the distance for sound, noticing any sound you come across without judgment, simply identifying it if you can, and then moving on to scan for the next sound, moving easily from one sound to another far in the distance. And Gently bringing your awareness closer to sounds that might be around you, wherever you are, in the immediate area or in the space of the room that you're in if you're indoors. Any sounds at all, simply scanning for sounds, identifying them, and moving on to the next. Some sounds might be very quiet, or there might even be no sound other than my voice. Now move your awareness closer. See if you can hear the sound of your own breath flowing, the closest sound to you, perhaps only barely audible, and just focus on the sound of your own gently flowing breath. No need to change the breath. Just let it flow. Letting go of the breath now. Remaining aware and awake. I'll guide a rotation of awareness around the body. As I name each body part, mentally repeat that part to yourself. Rest your awareness on that body part without judgment, and allow that part to relax completely. Any remnant of tension or tightness simply draining away into the earth. Right fingers, thumb and hand. Right wrist, forearm, elbow, upper arm, right shoulder, armpit, right side chest, side waist, right hip, thigh, knee, back of the knee, right shin, calf, ankle, right foot and toes. Left fingers, thumb and hand. Left wrist, forearm, elbow, upper arm, left shoulder, armpit, left side chest, side waist, hip, thigh, knee, back of the knee, left shin, calf, ankle, left foot and toes. Right heel, left heel, back of the right leg, back of the left leg, right buttock, left buttock, lower back, mid back, upper back and shoulder blades, whole of the spine, back of the head, crown of the head, forehead, right eyebrow, left eyebrow, third eye between the brows, right cheek, left cheek, nose, upper lip, lower lip, chin, jaw, teeth, tongue, throat, right side collarbone, left side collarbone, right side chest, left side chest, heart center, navel center, whole of the belly, right leg, left leg, both legs together, right arm, left arm, both arms together, whole of the torso, head and face, the whole of the body, the whole of the body, the whole of the body. Remaining aware and awake. Bring complete awareness to the naturally flowing breath. Just noticing the flow without needing to alter it in any way. Notice the movement of each breath in and out through the nostrils. On your next inhalation, see the breath entering through both nostrils and being drawn up to the third eye point between the brows. On exhalation, see the breath leaving the third eye point and flowing out of both nostrils. Continue to see the breath in this way, moving in through both nostrils, being drawn up to the third eye. And as you exhale, the breath leaving the third eye, moving away and out through both nostrils. remaining aware of each and every breath. Begin to mentally count the breath backwards from 17. Inhale 17. Exhale 17. Inhale 16. Exhale 16. Continue counting your own breath without any regard for the end point. Simply counting each breath as you visualize it moving to and from the third eye. Staying present with the breath. And wherever you are in your count, just gently letting the breath go. Not needing to count or visualize anymore. Now's the time simply to be. Resting with awareness. Simply be. Remaining present. Simply be. Remaining as you are, still and relaxed on the mat. Eyes closed. Start to allow your awareness once more to focus on the naturally flowing breath. And then start to allow your awareness to expand outwards into the space surrounding you. Listening for sounds in the space surrounding you, all without reaction or judgment. moving from one sound to the next easily, and gradually expanding your awareness further out and far into the distance, still noticing any sounds there may be, just sounds of life happening around us this morning. And letting go of all the sounds, bring awareness back into the body and consider how and where you'd like to invite movement back into the body, perhaps a very gentle beginning with fingers, toes, wrists, ankles. You may not move much more than that, or you might start to work your way up the limbs, perhaps into a stretch. You may choose to move your head very gently from one side to the other. Perhaps making your way towards bent knees, either with the feet planted or knees drawn all the way into the chest, one at a time or both together. Bent knees will make it easier to roll onto one side, where you might pause for a couple of breaths in the state of being before you choose to finish coming up to find a forward-facing seat, however you're comfortable. You might close your eyes again, or just lower your gaze towards the floor, the ground. And bring hands together at heart center. If you'd like to join me in a single chant of the mantra Om to close the practice with the breath out. Breathe in. Once again, thank you very much for having me here sharing yoga with you this morning, or whenever it is that you're catching up on this practice. It's a deep honor and a privilege to be here with you, and I thank Leanne again for having me, and I wish you all a very safe, happy and peaceful Christmas, whatever that means to you. Namaste.
Namaste, Joe.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That was
You're
beautiful.
welcome.